Hello, welcome to Flower Juice. My name's John McDonald, and today I was thinking of making a wreath for our design. And I don't have any wreath rings, so I thought I would make a wreath in a different way. And initially, I was thinking I would use some floral foam, but as a lot of you know, floral foam isn't so good for the environment because it's petrochemical based. There are new alternatives coming out, and we're quite excited to see these hit the market and really take off, because that really will make a difference. So say you want to make a wreath as a remembrance item and take it to a family grave, but you don't have a wreath ring. So I was thinking I would use a base like this. So this is basically a big plant pot holder or a big plant pot saucer. And I've got some wire. Now this is plastic coated wire. I've used this in a couple of occasions for different designs, and I find the plastic coated is better than chicken wire. It's a little bit more gentle, and it's easier to work. Well, it's better for us, but it's also better for the flowers. You're less likely to scrape them and damage them, and therefore they're less likely to go over. They're not going to get infections going into the stems. So we're going to use this as our base. So let's create a ring of basically not chicken wire, but wire to go into this container. So I've just got some odds and sods here, and I don't think it really matters, because at the end of the day, it's going to disappear. And we don't need to be too worried about it, because you're not going to see it. Now, the main thing when you're using like a wire is you want to build up a bit of layers, essentially. So you don't want to just have like one layer of wire. You want to have a couple of layers of wire. And the reason for that is that you want the stems to be supported in 2 or 3 different areas. So I'm going to add some other little pieces here as well. And that is really just to create more of that depth. Now, I think if this was an item that you wanted to make regularly, then this would be worth doing. This would be worth making, because then you can just reuse it. If you made a couple of bases, then what you could do is you could take one along, place it, uplift the old one, bring it back, and make that for your next one. So we don't have to be wasteful, especially with a mechanic like this. So that is working really nicely. It's just sitting in there. Quite well, which I'm really pleased about. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tape it in. So I'm going to use a little bit of this Oasis floral tape. No, this is where it gets a bit fiddly. I'm just going to go round it and round. So I want to keep this area clear, because if we start to cut across it with tape, it's gonna muck up the image of this ring. So it is worth spending a little bit of time just creating this as nicely as you can. As I say, making a base is a good idea for future uses. So if we make this nicely, everything's secure. We could even use this as a table arrangement. Would be quite nice as well. So there's definitely a big fashion for like sustainable mechanics. And I think as well, it saving the planet, but it also saves money. and waste. And when I think back to the vast amount of floral foam we used to use, now I think there's so many opportunities that we could have saved on that. And there's nothing wrong with floral foam from a florist point of view in the sense of the design work you can do. It's just this fact of it being not so environmental. So that is our base. So as you can see, that's gone quite nicely. It will get covered in material. So to be honest, it could have looked really uglier than this. I'm surprised at how nice it looks. If it was uglier, it wouldn't really matter because essentially it's got a job to do and we're not going to see it by the time we've put our flowers in. So let's put some water into the bowl. Now, you're probably going to say, oh, this is going to be a nightmare to transport. Yeah, water would slosh out a little bit. You're not going to carry it easily. I think what I would suggest is if you're putting it in a car, you put it on a towel and any water that sloshes out just falls on the towel. Then when you get it into situ, you can just top it right up. You could also just empty it. If everything's had a good drink, if you've made it in there and then just before transport you put out most of the water, then what you could do is just top it up once it's in situ. Right, so I've moved the camera so we can get a good look at what is actually happening. And the first thing I'm going to do is create a little bit of a base with our conifer. So you can work in a very methodical way, you can work in a random way. I think as long as you're kind of consistent, or you can vary it, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes it's easier with wreaths to come in and do the centre first. Now, I think if this saucer was like a dark green, that would have been really nice. So that's maybe something to try and source, would be a darker container, or even just give it a spray. That would work. Now, when I said about foliage, about water sloshing about in transport, I think really by the time we put in our flower material, that's not going to be such an issue because the material itself will just stop a lot of the sloshing. We've done that inner ring, and we're just going to come and do this outer ring. A lot of people are not a favourite with the conifer. They don't like it. I quite like it. I quite like the smell as well. And just as we would with a normal base, this is a good way to start, is just going around the edges and creating a little bit of a finish. So basically this is going to hang over the edge, hide those little bits of tape. And as with all designs, the overall finish will depend very much on what materials you use. So if you want to keep it very light and airy, then choose light and airy materials. If you want it to be quite heavy, then you can use heavier materials. You can make it more floral, you can make it more foliage. The choice is really up to you. And that's the beauty of making something yourself. Now, I'm going to put in a little bit of ivy. I know you like to watch YouTube if you're watching this, and so do I. Everyone does. And I was really surprised to see a video where someone was making washing up liquid or detergent or basically soap with ivy leaves. I'd never heard of that. And I think, oh my God, I'm surrounded by loads of ivy. This is an absolute something I must try. The ivy is just a good foliage to have because it just grows and grows. It's not difficult at all. So we've got our edging, and I'm just going to come in with a bit of lavender. Now I'm using a knife here. If you have never used a florist knife before, then if you check in the description, we've got a little video link that will take you to a video to show you how to safely use a knife. So I think they can be a little bit scary. And definitely if you get a new florist knife, they're pretty sharp. In fact, they're very sharp. And it's normally when I tell people this that that's when I actually cut myself because I'm not paying attention. Essentially what you're doing is not moving your fingers, you're moving your arm. But have a little look at that video. It hopefully will give you the confidence to give it a try, because the big benefit of using a knife, well, there's a couple of benefits, is that you're not having to put something up and down all the time. Like if you're using secateurs, you tend to place them down on the table and then come back to them. And yeah, that works, that's not a problem, but it just takes more time. Whereas the knife, you can just keep it in your hand, and as you see, you can go quite quick, which, if you're in a hurry, if you're in a business, then that's important. Now this is some beautiful sage, and I just went into the garden to see what I had, to be honest, and ivy I've got loads of. The lavender is quite pretty. Now, actually, I must be more careful of this hole in the centre. We don't really want to take away from that. If this is to be a wreath, then essentially a wreath is a ring of flowers. Now, for our flowers then, that's enough foliage. In fact, that's quite a lot, but I definitely don't want us to see this this mechanic. Not that it's terrible, but it's not terribly ugly, but it's not something we want to see. So I have some nice little roses. So like a little two-tone rose. I definitely want to know that that stem is going down to the bottom of the saucer. That is the important thing. I want everything to sit down to that level, and then I know it's in water. So I'm going to do this in quite a traditional way, which basically what I tend to do is maybe use 3 flowers, 6 flowers, 5 flowers, doesn't really matter, but just creating a structure within our design really gives it a little bit of strength, in the sense that it feels balanced because it's got kind of symmetry. Now, if you've got 6 flowers here, you can do more than 6 there and less than 6 on an inner line if you were doing an inner line. Depends what you've got. Or you can do just so you could do 6, but you could do double groups as well. That would work. Now that's all the roses I've got on the big roses. So now I actually have some lovely little spray roses. And these can come into this inner level. As I say, I'm really just using what I've got. So I wanted to give this a go and just maybe give you some inspiration. See how it worked as well. Because I've never Never made a base like this and tried it, so we're doing this together, which I always find quite fun. I think this may be more interesting for you guys to see, was it easy? Because if you're doing it, it's going to maybe be the first time for you as well. So it's one thing for me to say this is possible, but is it possible? Now, this is something that you can use as a foliage, is the rose stems. If the foliage is really nice and it's in good condition, then you can break this down into units and use that as well. Like, as long as it has a stem, then you are good to go. And you've already paid for it. When you bought the roses, you paid for that foliage. So as long as you know it's going to be good for the use. So obviously, if it's very hot summer or you live in a very hot place, then sometimes you might want to avoid using like the rose foliage. Now, that's our main items into there, but I want to use some of this beautiful lisianthus. So we're going to start bringing this in. So I did want this to be quite floral. And the great thing with lisianthus is you can break it down into little pieces, into little units. And they are perfect as a kind of secondary flower. And I think we will go quite floral with this. I've got the flowers. I think it would be interesting to see this quite floral. What's interesting with the lisianthus is the difference in colours between the different ages of the flower. So a bud is a different colour to an open flower. An older flower develops a different colour to when it first opened. Let's just have a little look. Now, I just heard that one break. So if you hear a stem break, then you do need to change it. It's not going to be able to take up water. It's not going to be happy. So it's not the end of the world if something breaks. These things happen. But just don't leave it in there without water. Because it'll be the thing that doesn't look so good and someone notices and thinks, oh, that was beautiful apart from that dead flower that was in there. As you can see, I'm just building this up. And what we're wanting is we're wanting a little bit of recession, which is when the flower is deeper in, and we're wanting to build up like a layer effect. And also keep an eye out for your most beautiful flowers. When I first learned floristry, the lady that I worked for basically told me, your most expensive flowers are the ones you want to be the most visual. So don't hide them, put them in so that really they're the ones that are seen first and appreciated first. So with this, the roses would be your main kind of flower, but also this lisianthus is very pretty. So the ones that are sitting nice and looking nice, we can bring in. Now, I think I said this would be great for a remembrance item, but I think as well, when you see it like this, it actually would be great as a table arrangement. So There's no reason why it has to be a sympathy item. It's a little bit long. You can build up a beautiful table design as well. Now, I do want to add, like, we've got quite a lot of florals going on here, and we've got a little bit of contrast with the lavender, but I have some nice mint that was in the garden that I noticed that is flowering. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a little bit of the mint as well. So really I want this to be like a little bit of a celebration of the summer flowers, kind of garden flowers. And also this creates a contrast. It's got a wonderful smell, but that little change in colour as well works nicely. Even if you've got a little broken head, as long as it's got enough stem on it, you can pop it in. And again, I'm just going to work this through the whole wreath. So we have kept this center area open, which is good. And if I just move that bud, that really does keep it open. And just to finish then, we've got our basic wreath, and it's nice, and it's got lots of interest, but I do have a little bit of fountain grass. So we're going to pop a little bit of this in just to create, again, another layer, another highlight. But what I'm going to do is, instead of putting it all the way through, I think we'll just do 3 placements of it. So just put in 2 or 3 heads into one area. And just repeat. And I want to feel that that has gone down into the water. If it's not down into the water, it will just curl up and die. And that doesn't look good with fountain grass because you really see it. So you can see I'm gripping things like between my thumb and my forefinger and just using that to help feed in to the actual base. Now, I think we can put a little bit more volume into this placement. I'm looking from above here and I just want these to be kind of similar. So this now needs 1 or 2 little pieces. I think this is quite fun. And there we go. So I hope you've enjoyed watching today's video. We try and think of ideas that you might find enjoyable or a little bit inspiring. If there's anything that you'd like us to do, then let us know in the comments below. Now, we've got new videos on a regular basis. We'd love you to join us for our next design. If you haven't already subscribed, then we'd really appreciate it if you did. If you can tap the like button or the notification button, that'll keep you up to date with all our new videos and content, and it really helps us as a channel, which we really appreciate. Now, if you want a little bit more inspiration, have a look in the description box. We've got that link for using a knife, so that's interesting to see. But if you want a little bit more floral inspiration, then have a look there. Now, what I might do is I might show a different way to make a floral wreath that again is not foam based, but just to give you a little bit more kind of technique or something up your sleeve that you might want to use. So until next time, take care, and we hope to see you soon.